Are you secretly damaging your health without realizing it? Ethan, a 72-year-old retired firefighter living in the quiet town of Maple Ridge, always thought he was doing everything right. His mornings began with a warm shower, a quick brush of his teeth, and maybe a little aftershave. For decades, this routine felt sufficient, comforting even. But lately, he'd been feeling sluggish, out of breath, and oddly disconnected. Visits to the doctor ruled out major issues, yet something still wasn't right. One afternoon, while chatting with his longtime friend, Dr. Charlotte Brooks, a seasoned geriatric specialist, he heard something that shook him. Ethan, most people your age overlook the basics, and I'm not talking about diet or exercise. I'm talking about hygiene, the right kind. That simple comment opened Ethan's eyes to a startling truth. There were parts of his body he hadn't been cleaning properly for decades. And it wasn't just him. Millions of older adults unknowingly skip key areas every day, leading to fatigue, inflammation, even chronic illness. In this video, we'll uncover the 5 most neglected parts of the body, how improper care affects your health, and the simple steps that could restore your vitality, starting with one surprising spot, your tongue. The turning point. What Ethan learned that changed everything. Ethan couldn't stop thinking about what Dr. Charlotte Brooks had told him. It wasn't just small talk. It felt like a wake-up call. That night, while sitting by his fireplace, sipping chamomile tea, he searched online for more information. Article after article confirmed her warning. Neglecting certain areas of the body could silently chip away at your health, especially in your golden years. The most surprising part? The tongue. It seemed absurd at first. How could a muscle inside his mouth be the root of so many problems? But the facts were undeniable. The tongue, home to over 700 types of bacteria, acted like a sponge for toxins. Left unchecked, it could allow harmful microorganisms to enter the bloodstream through tiny gum abrasions. For older adults, this wasn't just gross, it was dangerous. So the next morning, Ethan did something he'd never done before. He drove to the local pharmacy, picked up a stainless steel tongue scraper, and added it to his bathroom shelf. He wasn't sure what to expect, but something inside him, a quiet instinct, told him this mattered. The first time he used it, he was shocked. A thin, yellowish film came off with each gentle scrape. "That was in my mouth this whole time," he muttered. He followed up with a rinse and went about his day. The entire process took less than 3 minutes. After just 1 week, something strange happened. His coffee tasted richer. The apple he had with lunch was crisper and sweeter than he remembered. Within 2 weeks, his morning breath wasn't nearly as bad. Dr. Brooks had been right all along. At his next dental appointment, the hygienist raised her eyebrows. "Your gums look healthier. What have you been doing differently?" Ethan smiled. "Scraping my tongue," he said proudly. But the benefits didn't stop there. Ethan found himself feeling more alert in the mornings, less groggy in the afternoons. His energy wasn't just returning, it was rebuilding. His wife Amelia noticed too. "You seem lighter," she said, "like you've shaken something off." And she was right. That small act of cleaning a part of his body he'd ignored for decades had sparked something bigger, a curiosity, a sense of control, and a motivation to care for himself more intentionally. Ethan couldn't help but wonder, what else had he been missing? That's when he remembered Dr. Brooks had mentioned there were 5 neglected areas. The tongue was just the beginning. And if such a simple change could bring this much relief, what would happen if he gave that same care to the rest? The unexpected discovery that left Ethan speechless. Just as Ethan began to feel like he was regaining his spark, life, as it often does, threw him an unexpected curveball. One evening, as he prepared for bed, he noticed a strange, itchy sensation between the toes on his left foot. At first, he shrugged it off. Probably dry skin, he thought. But over the next few days, the itch grew persistent, turning into redness, then slight peeling. Amelia, ever the caring partner, insisted he get it checked. Reluctantly, Ethan visited a podiatrist doctor, Ryan Miller, who examined his feet closely. After a brief look, Dr. Miller sighed. You've got a fungal infection, Ethan. It's not severe, but it's the kind of thing that sneaks up when the feet aren't cleaned and dried properly, especially between the toes. Ethan was stunned. I shower every day. How could this happen? That's the thing, Dr. Miller explained. Most people think a quick rinse is enough, but as we age, circulation slows down, the skin dries faster, and moisture between the toes becomes a perfect breeding ground. It's one of the most overlooked hygiene steps, and one of the most dangerous if ignored. Ethan sat in silence. He'd been so focused on things like diet, supplements, even tongue scraping, but he hadn't thought twice about his feet, the very foundation that carried him through life. Dr. Miller added something that struck a deep chord. You'd be amazed how many falls, infections, and even amputations start with something as small as not drying between the toes. That night, Ethan stood barefoot in front of the mirror, inspecting his feet like he never had before. He noticed subtle changes, a slight discoloration around the nails, some dry patches on his heels, and a mild swelling near his ankle. Things he'd never paid attention to. From that day forward, foot care became a ritual. He started washing his feet intentionally, sitting down on a shower bench to clean between every toe. He used a soft towel to dry them completely and applied moisturizer, but only on the tops and soles, never between the toes. Within weeks, the itching disappeared. His balance improved. Even his back pain seemed to ease up a little, thanks to the better posture that came with healthier feet. But perhaps the biggest surprise was emotional. Caring for his feet, a task he once considered mundane, gave him a sense of dignity, a quiet pride in honoring the body that had carried him through firefighting, fatherhood, and retirement. And just like with his tongue, the results were undeniable. Simple care led to real transformation. One evening, he turned to Amelia and said, "Can you believe all these years, I never realized how much I'd been neglecting myself?" She smiled and replied, "That's the beauty of it. It's never too late to take better care." From maintenance to mindfulness, Ethan's shift in perspective. After addressing his foot health, Ethan began seeing his daily hygiene routine in a whole new light. What used to be autopilot habits, brushing, rinsing, showering, were now intentional acts of self-respect. For the first time in decades, he didn't just clean his body, he cared for it. But there was one area he still hadn't given much thought to: his underarms. One morning, as he raised his arms to stretch, he noticed a faint irritation in his left armpit. A bit of redness, some dryness. Nothing serious, but just enough to catch his attention. Remembering what Dr. Brooks had said about lymph nodes and immune health, Ethan did a little research. To his surprise, the underarms were more than just sweat zones. They were powerful hubs in the body's detoxification system. Dozens of lymph nodes sat beneath the skin, quietly filtering toxins and waste. But if clogged by deodorant buildup, sweat, or dead skin, they could become sluggish, or worse, inflamed. Ethan realized something deeper. For years, he'd been slapping on antiperspirant without ever washing the area thoroughly. No circular scrubbing, no rinsing beyond a quick pass in the shower. It had become a blind spot. That afternoon, he changed everything. He bought a mild, fragrance-free cleanser and a soft, exfoliating cloth. In the shower, he washed his underarms slowly, deliberately. First in circles, then upward and downward strokes, treating the skin like something valuable instead of just sweaty. He rinsed until the water ran clear, then patted them dry with a towel he now dedicated only for sensitive areas. After just 3 days of this new routine, he noticed something amazing. The redness faded. The irritation was gone. Even more surprisingly, he didn't smell as strong at the end of the day, even with less deodorant. It wasn't just about odor. He felt clean in a way he hadn't before. Lighter, freer, almost younger. At dinner, he shared the discovery with Amelia, who laughed in disbelief. All these years, we thought deodorant was the solution. Turns out it was part of the problem. Ethan nodded, then said something unexpected. I used to think taking care of myself was about doing the bare minimum, but now I get it. It's not maintenance. It's mindfulness. That realization became a ripple effect. Each part of his body, even the ones hidden or forgotten, began to matter in new ways. He started noticing small things, like how his armpits cooled faster after a warm shower, or how he didn't feel as sluggish in the evenings. Caring for his underarms wasn't glamorous. It wasn't even something he talked about much. But deep down, he knew it mattered. Because every little act, no matter how small, was adding up to something powerful. He was reclaiming ownership of his health, one overlooked body part at a time. A breath of fresh air, discovering the power of proper breathing. After weeks of small but powerful changes, tongue scraping, intentional foot care, and mindful underarm hygiene, Ethan felt more energetic than he had in years. But something still lingered in the background, a constant stuffy nose. Every morning he'd wake up feeling like he hadn't slept well. Amelia would often nudge him in the night, telling him he was snoring again. He'd brush it off. "It's just age," he would say. But the foggy mornings, the dry mouth, and the shallow breathing were starting to wear him down. One Saturday morning, Ethan attended a local wellness talk led by a respiratory health expert named Helen Carter. The moment she said, "Most people breathe at 60% of their lung capacity because of blocked nasal passages," Ethan sat up straight. It was as if she were speaking directly to him. Helen explained how proper nasal hygiene isn't just about staying clear during allergy season. It's about oxygen, circulation, and even brain function. When your nose is congested, your brain doesn't get enough oxygen. That leads to fatigue, poor memory, and restless sleep, she said. That hit home. Ethan had been experiencing all of it. She demonstrated a simple nasal rinse routine using a saline spray in a neti pot. "Do this morning and night," she advised. "It'll clear your nasal passages, reduce inflammation, and help you sleep better than you have in years." Ethan bought a neti pot on the way home. That night, he stood in front of the mirror, slightly skeptical but curious. He prepared the saline solution, tilted his head, and let the warm mixture flow gently through one nostril and out the other. It was odd but not unpleasant, and afterward, he felt an immediate difference. His breathing felt open, clean, almost like stepping into fresh mountain air. The next morning, he woke up clear-headed. No stuffiness, no dry mouth. He hadn't tossed and turned once during the night. After 1 week of nasal rinsing, Ethan noticed a deeper kind of change. His energy during the day soared. His thoughts were sharper. He found himself humming around the house, even cracking more jokes, something Amelia hadn't seen in a while. At breakfast one morning, she looked at him and said, "You're glowing, Ethan. What's gotten into you?" He grinned. "Turns out I've just been learning how to breathe." The opportunity he found wasn't just about clearer sinuses. It was about rediscovering what his body could do when supported properly, with care, attention, and a little curiosity. For the first time in years, Ethan wasn't waiting for the next ache or symptom to show up. He was ahead of it, in control. It was more than just a morning routine now. It was a second chance to live stronger, fuller, and with renewed purpose. From tired to transformed, the rise of a healthier Ethan. By the time spring rolled around in Maple Ridge, Ethan was a different man. He hadn't joined a gym, gone on a strict diet, or started any expensive regimen. What he had done was far more profound. He'd reconnected with his body through 5 simple, often overlooked hygiene habits. His days now began with clarity. Each morning started with a saline nasal rinse, followed by tongue scraping. He washed and dried his feet with care, gave attention to his underarms, and even cleaned his belly button, something he used to laugh at, but now treated as a daily ritual. These moments, small as they seemed, became the anchors of his day. But the biggest change wasn't what Ethan did. It was who he was becoming. He noticed he was standing taller, walking steadier. His balance had improved, which meant fewer stumbles and no more cautious shuffling across the hardwood floors. He was breathing easier, sleeping deeper, and feeling sharper. One morning as he tied his shoes, he paused to realize something. It had been months since his last headache. His back, once a daily burden, had quieted to an occasional whisper. The chronic fatigue that used to drag behind him like a shadow? Gone. It wasn't magic. It was mindfulness. He'd stopped seeing his body as something aging and fragile, and started seeing it as something that, with the right attention, could still thrive. Amelia, too, had noticed. Their walks were longer now, filled with conversation and laughter. She started adopting some of his habits, curious to see if they'd work for her too. They became each other's quiet cheerleaders, a pair rediscovering vitality together. Ethan even found himself sharing tips with his old firefighter buddies at their weekly coffee meetups. "You ever scrape your tongue?" he'd ask, grinning. At first, they laughed. Then they listened. And then they started trying it themselves. One afternoon, Ethan received a letter from his grandson, Mason, a college freshman. In it, Mason wrote, "Grandpa, Mom told me how you've been feeling better lately. That's so cool. I always thought getting older just meant slowing down, but now I'm not so sure." Ethan smiled as he read those words. He realized that the change in him wasn't just physical, it was generational. By taking control of his health, he was setting an example, a living reminder that it's never too late to care, to grow, to evolve. What started as a conversation with Dr. Brooks had become a quiet revolution in his life. From the soles of his feet to the tip of his tongue, Ethan wasn't just surviving his senior years, he was thriving in them. A new chapter, not the end. How small habits helped Ethan reclaim his life. The birds were louder that morning, or maybe Ethan was just hearing them more clearly. As he stood on his back porch, the warm sunlight touching his face, he breathed in deeply. No congestion, no wheeze, just air. Clean, easy, life-giving air. He wasn't in his 20s anymore, and he didn't want to be. At 72, Ethan finally understood something no doctor or brochure had ever explained. Growing older doesn't mean giving up your power. It means learning to listen to your body more deeply than ever before. Looking back, it amazed him how simple the change had been. 5 body parts, 5 overlooked areas, and 5 minutes a day. His tongue, once a forgotten muscle, now sparkled with cleanliness and gave him back the pleasure of flavor. His feet, no longer itchy or sore, supported him with strength and stability. His underarms, finally cared for properly, no longer irritated him or drained his energy. His nose? He breathed better, slept deeper, lived lighter. And even his belly button, a small, strange spot he used to ignore, reminded him that no detail is too small when it comes to health. But it wasn't just physical improvement that changed Ethan's life. It was the mental shift. For years, he had felt like his best days were behind him, that growing older meant becoming invisible, to society, to doctors, even to himself. Now every scrape of the tongue, every rinse of his nose, every intentional rub between his toes felt like a declaration, "I'm still here. I still matter." And with each tiny action, he reclaimed pieces of himself, not just as a patient or a retiree, but as a man full of life, laughter, and stories still left to write. One weekend, his grandchildren visited. As they sat around the table, laughing over pancakes, his youngest granddaughter looked up and asked, "Grandpa, how come you're always smiling now?" Ethan chuckled. "Because I finally figured out the secret," he said. "Taking care of yourself isn't about being perfect. It's about not giving up on yourself." That night before bed, he stood at the bathroom sink, scraper in one hand, warm towel in the other. The routine was the same, but the meaning had deepened. This wasn't about hygiene anymore. It was about honoring the vessel that had carried him through fire, through love, through loss, through time. And as he looked in the mirror, Ethan didn't see an old man. He saw a fighter, a learner, a man finally living on his terms. Because sometimes it's not the big changes that save us. It's the small ones we choose to show up for, day after day. And for Ethan, those small choices didn't just change his habits. They gave him back his life. Life lesson. It's never too late to start over, one small step at a time. Ethan's story teaches us a powerful truth. Transformation doesn't always begin with grand gestures. Sometimes the most life-changing results come from the smallest, most overlooked actions. For years, he believed fatigue, pain, and decline were just part of getting older. But by paying attention to what most people ignore, the tongue, the feet, the underarms, the nose, and even the belly button, he discovered new energy, better sleep, and a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. The lesson is simple but profound. Aging is inevitable, but suffering is not. By tuning into your body's signals and practicing mindful care, you can rewrite the story of your health at any age. No matter how long you've ignored yourself, it's never too late to start over. The path to feeling better starts with something as small as a 3-minute habit, and the impact, life-changing. Real-life application, start today with just one area. If you're feeling overwhelmed, don't try to change everything at once. Start with just one area, maybe your tongue or your feet. Set aside 5 minutes in the morning or evening to care for that part of your body with intention. Get a tongue scraper. Wash and dry your feet thoroughly. Try a saline nasal rinse. These aren't luxury routine, they're lifelines. Track how you feel for 1 week. More energy, better sleep, fresher breath. You'll be amazed how quickly your body responds to being noticed and respected again. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and share with your friends. Your support keeps these stories alive. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new episode. And if today's story touched your heart, leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Take care, stay well, and see you in the next story.